everyone, and welcome to Sebalicious. Today I have two test videos rolled into one video, which is my consommé and velouté, the final two soups for this module for my NVQ level 3 in professional cookery. I hope you enjoy the video. It's quite a long one, but if you do like what you see, please leave a like, subscribe and enjoy the video. So thank you very much for watching, and hopefully see you in the next one. Bye bye.
Okay, here we have our cold stock of 200 mils. We have my paysan bouquet garni, so it couldn't actually fresh thyme or bay leaf. The hands use bouquet garni. You have 200 grams of the minced chicken and about 40 grams each of the vegetables. So 40 grams of carrots, 40 grams of onions, 40 grams of celery. And also I have the egg whites to make the clarification. This clarification, of course, are mixed together, left in the fridge for 30 minutes. During that 30 minutes, I prepared my hot stock, which you can see now I added to the hot pan. The hot stock is about 1,000 litres of chicken stock, and you can see here I just added my clarification, and now I'm whisking the clarification vigorously into the hot stock. Now with the whisking, you only do it once at the beginning, and then I need to allow it to come gently to the boil. And when it comes to the boil, I then whisk it one more time, and then I leave it to simmer on a gentle heat. So now I'm just waiting for it to come up to the boil. Later on in this video, I actually place a soup lid on top just to help it speed up, because it's very important for it to come to the boil quickly, so that clarification begins to set on the surface. Also, at this moment in the video, I would also like to talk about the safe storage of soup. Now, of course, in a professional kitchen, some kitchens will have a blast chiller, and of course it's very important that once you are cooling down the soup, you place it in the blast chiller, and you need to keep it in the blast chiller until it reaches 5 degrees centigrade or below. This is very important when cooling down soups, particularly soups, because if you do place soup in the fridge when it's still warm, the chances are that the soup can become sour. So it's very important that you cool soup down and any food down properly. If you don't have a blast chiller, then you can actually leave it out to cool down on a work surface for a maximum of 90 minutes before putting it in the fridge. But of course, the ideal situation is to place it in a blast chiller, and of course then you place it in an airtight sealed container with, of course, your date label as well as your allergen label. Particularly with Natasha's law that's just recently come in, allergens are very important. You need to make sure you list all your allergens that's in the soup, and then of course you make sure you date it for the correct time when it's been made and when you discard it, which is 3 days. Of course, when storing any item in the fridge, you need to, of course, take care how you store it. For example, if you're storing ready-to-eat foods, cooked foods, you keep that in a separate fridge from your raw foods, naturally. Of course, if you only have the one fridge, for example, if you're at home, you may have to place all your raw items at the bottom of the fridge and your cooked items on top, so to prevent any cross-contamination or risk of food poisoning. Even if it's in a sealed container. For example, anything could drip onto a sealed container. You handle it with your hands, you're not aware. Before you know, you're handling the soup, handling spoons, and cross-contamination can occur in there. So that's a little information on the safe storage of soups. So of course now I'm just waiting for this to boil, and when it does come to the boil, put on a gentle simmer, and we just leave it then for about 2 hours, 2.5 hours on a very gentle simmer, and not to disturb the clarification on top. If you disturb the clarification, what will happen is that you disturb all the sediment that will run through the soup and it won't be so clear at the end. Okay, here we are. We are now seeing the consommé about to come to the boil, and now I'm just about to whisk it one final time before I allow it to simmer on a gentle heat. And here we go. Only a quick whisk, and now I'm going to reduce the heat. I'm just waiting for it to come a bit more to the boil, just making sure it's going to be on a gentle simmer, not just sit there for 2 hours. Okay, and at this stage, sorry, you can already see the clarification on top forming this sort of like white surface. And this surface, of course, will lift up all the sort of sediment, oils, resulting in a nice clear stock. And of course, the celery, the onions, the carrots, and the chicken will, of course, add flavour to the consommé during cooking. As you can see it here in this video. And over here, you can see my bowl with my muslin cloth, a very fine sort of cloth. So when the soup is ready, I will strain it through the muslin cloth, removing all the impurities, and we should have a nice clear stock. Okay, here I have my croutons for my velouté, which will be coming right after this consommé, because I used the stock from the consommé for the velouté, and my chopped vegetables for my garnish for my consommé by paysan. I can't pronounce it very well, but it's sort of like centimetre square cuts of vegetable for the consommé, a very traditional type of garnish. Okay, we're just looking at the muslin cloth again. Also have my velouté ingredients, or at least some of them already made. So the flour and the batter for the roux, as well as the croutons. Here's the consommé. As you can see, the clarification is settled on top, leaving a clear liquid underneath. Now I'm going to ladle the consommé into the bowl through the muslin cloth. So basically what I've done here with my ladle is I made a little hole in the center and then carefully ladling the soup through, ensuring that I do not agitate the clarification too much, and ensure I do not have too much of that also dunk and that kind of thing in the muslin cloth, because that will affect the consommé in the end. So now I'm just passing it through carefully, of course, because it's very hot, so you just want to do it carefully, gently. And of course, once this has been done, I will transfer it to a clean saucepan, and then I'll get a teaspoon and add it, and take a teaspoon of the consommé and add it to a clean, clear plate. And this is a test, a common test, where you just see for any impurities, any oil and that kind of thing. And if there's still some impurities you can see and that kind of thing, you can pass it through yet again. Of course, through a clean muslin cloth, because if you pass through the same one again, it will just become dirty and ruin it. Okay, I'm just going to taste the consommé and then adjust seasoning if I need to. I believe I added a bit more pepper to the consommé. Salt was fine, maybe a touch of salt, but it tasted very well. You've got to be careful with seasoning with these sort of things. I mean, with anything really. Once you add, you can't take it back. Okay, now I have my blanched Parisienne. We work on pronouncing that, of course. And now I'm just working on the presentation for the consommé. In hindsight, I think I could have done a bit better in this particular aspect of the presentation. It looks okay. I think what happened when I started adding my consommé to the bowl, I was a bit too vigorous, and it resulted in the vegetables begin to spread out throughout the soup, which was fine in itself. But it'd be nice if they could sit more in the center. So I can work on that in the future. So now I'm just about to ladle consommé. I had it on the saucepan. Just bring it back up to a gentle simmer. bring back up the temperature after ladling it through the thermoethylene cloth. Overall, with this particular test, I'm reasonably pleased with it. The consommé came out very well. It was clear. There was very little impurities. It tasted very well. It's hot, as you can see there, which is always a plus. And overall, it tasted very good. I think in hindsight as well, with the presentation, I could have used consommé Celestine, which is a savoury pancake cut into fine julienne. I could have used that. Well, maybe next time. Okay, so now we'll be coming up to part 2 of this video, which will be for the velouté. The velouté is going to be a roux-based soup, so made with flour and butter. And the velouté itself is going to use the consommé stock, because as the stock is so rich, quite intense in flavour, so it'd be a shame to waste it. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so for this velouté, it's going to be 20 grams of butter, to 20 grams of flour, and here I also have my liaison, which is of course meant to enrich and thicken the soup as well, and it's about 1 egg yolk to 20 mils of cream. So there you got 20 mils of cream and 1 egg yolk. I have 200 mils of my consommé. I also have about 400 grams of the sweet corn and the chicken, so 200 grams sweet corn, about 200 grams of chicken. And of course I have my trusty soup bowl, and I have croutons of course as garnish. So it's quite simple, quite straightforward. To get the pan on the heat. Once the pan's on the heat, I'll add the butter, melt it, and then add the flour to create the roux. Okay, so I'm adding my butter, allow it to melt, make sure I don't waste any. And then I'll add my flour and give it a very vigorous mix. And just want to quickly cook out the flour. You don't want to overcook your roux, because what happens is if you overcook the roux, the actual mixture itself, will begin to spread out into the saucepan and it will become quite liquidy. So you don't want to do it for too long. So give the flour a very quick stir, allow it to cook out literally for a few moments. Remember, we will still be continue to cook the soup, so you'll cook out the flour anyway. But this also helps. And then I'm going to gradually add my consommé stock. The reason I add it gradually is so it doesn't become lumpy. You don't want that to happen. And of course I'm using whisk for that as well, just to make sure there are no lumps. Okay. Now I'm just going to add my sweet corn and the chicken from the consommé. So here, of course, we're trying to minimize waste, sorry, and use what we have. And of course, it's very flavorful, sorry. And the sweet corn also gives it a very nice taste. So we're just going to warm that through the velouté, allow it to soften, and then we're going to blitz it. And of course, as always, when using any equipment in the kitchen, make sure it's working properly, make sure the cable's not damaged, you know how to use it as well. And of course, you do it very carefully. So now just allowing this to warm through, come to a gentle simmer, and then we'll take it off and we'll blitz it. Then once it's been blitzed, add it back to the saucepan. Well, I beg your pardon, it's already in the saucepan. And then we'll add our liaison, which will enrich the soup and also help the thickening process. Now with the liaison, what you have to remember is that with the egg and cream, it will curdle if you allow it to boil. You must not allow it to boil. It must not boil, period. Okay? It cannot be allowed to boil. If it does, it will curdle and ruin the velouté. So just add it and you whisk it in vigorously once again, and then you can serve your soup. Okay, here I just added some more of my consommé, about extra 100 mils, because it was a bit too thick for my liking. Because remember, once I blitz it, it will be even thicker with the sweet corn and chicken. So I added a bit more consommé just to loosen it out a bit. And of course, as always, you taste the velouté, adjust seasoning as well. Okay, I've now blitzed the soup, and now I'm just going to strain it just to remove any sort of bits and pieces, that kind of thing, so there's a nice velvety texture. Of course, in hindsight, I could have used a larger saucepan. So yes, use a larger saucepan if you can. As you can see, I am struggling a bit here. So yes. So yes, use a larger saucepan. Don't do what I did. Okay, here we are. I'm just about to add my liaison. As you can see, it's not bubbling. It's just slight heat to it. And here we go. I'm just mixing it in, doing it very quickly, not taking the soup up to the boil, so it doesn't curdle. And there you have it. Okay, and now I'm just about to ladle the soup into the bowl. All in all, this these two tests went reasonably well as first goes at making a consommé as well as a velouté soup. Of course, there's always room for improvement, but I'm particularly pleased with the velouté. It was velvety smooth, a very nice taste. The sweetcorn actually gave it a very good taste. And the croutons also gave a nice welcome crunch, which I thought was a very welcome thing indeed. Eating a very smooth and enriched soup, the croutons gave a nice sort of texture and a bit of crunch. So all in all, I think all in all both soups went well. Always room for improvement, of course, as always. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you watched the whole video in its entirety, thank you very much. I know it can be quite monotonous, but of course these are videos for my NVQ level 3 cookery course. And of course, due to the pandemic, I can't have actual observations, so this is the best way of carrying on with my course and being assessed. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you for your support. If you like what you see, please leave a comment, like, subscribe, of course, if you're interested. And I hopefully see you soon in the next video. Take care, everyone. Look after yourselves. Have a lovely week. Bye bye.